Hey guys, Automated Garage back today. We got an 05 F350 here with a superb mess, super mess. Let me turn around here and show you what we got. So as you can see, there's oil everywhere. And if you look in here, we got chocolate milkshake. And look at this yumminess that comes out of here. Chocolate syrup. Real nice. So you might be asking, what do you do to flush the system? So it's obviously a ruptured oil cooler doing this. So what we're gonna do is regardless of if it's ruptured and still contaminating the system, I'm gonna go on and drain this. I'm gonna do a quick just water flush, which isn't gonna do a whole lot, it'll do a little bit. And then we're gonna fill it up with Cascade and just run it for a few minutes and get that circulated through the system, basically long enough for the thermostat to open. And then we are going to let that sit overnight, and I'm gonna start tearing this down tomorrow. That Cascade, we'll start working on breaking that oil down. So tomorrow, we'll get it fixed, and then we're gonna do the Cascade flush probably 2, if not 3 more times after it's done, and then some water flushes, distilled water flushes, all that. Anyways, I want to show you how big a mess this was before we even got started. So when I say Cascade, I mean the liquid dish detergent, not liquid soap. I had somebody misunderstand me on the phone one time and put freaking soap in here, and you can't do that. It will set up and just create air all in the system and everything. That's not what you want to do. So Cascade, and we're probably going to put damn near that whole bottle in here the first time we run it for just a few minutes and get that system filled up with some Cascade and start cutting that grease and oil. So before we get started on this tomorrow, who wants to go on and take a bet on this is not an OEM Ford oil cooler and this is a Dorman or some other Chinese knockoff junk? That's what I want to bet, because I seldom ever see an actual Ford oil cooler rupture. I see them get stopped up and your deltas get way off, but I seldom ever see them rupture. So I'm gonna go on and bet my money on it's a Dorman. So this is hot, just regular tap water, hot as I could get out of my tap. I mean, I can't touch my hot water when it gets that hot. And I probably put about this much Cascade in the bottom of this, shook it all up really good. Turn it over in here, and you can see it's just bubbling as it can feed in. And we still have our chocolate syrup coming out the bottom. So I'm gonna do one more, because you can see nothing that I'm putting in is coming out yet. So we'll put one more in there, and I'm gonna crank the truck up and let that all circulate through the system some with the plug back in and let it sit overnight. And that'll help start cutting this a little bit. That's not going to be the fix all, but if we can get the system to start cleaning while I take it apart and replace it, that's that much less bad stuff that's in the system to go through the new oil cooler. All right, we're on jug 3 now, and we're more to the consistency of muddy water, not chocolate syrup. So we're gonna get that in the system, and I'm gonna crank the truck. And when I say circulate, I'm talking about just for a couple minutes. We don't want to let the truck get hot, because this is not anything that actually works with exchanging any heat when you're dealing with syrup like this. So we're just gonna try to get the motor warmed up, get some of this circulated through the system, let it start breaking down this oil and grease. So this is the end of our 3rd gallon, and we actually have something that's like a liquid now going through there. So we're gonna stop because we know it's ruptured. We're to the point now where we're just gonna recontaminate the system even more if we keep doing this. But the goal was to somewhat clean it up before we put that brand new oil cooler in here. All right, starting out here, you need 13 millimeter, you need a pry bar, you need 8 millimeters to get your air intake, get your degas bottle off, basic set of pliers, get your coolant hoses off here, and then you need 11 millimeters to get your charge air cooler pipes off. That's the basics. Start getting down to the nitty gritty, and we can start actually removing some parts then. I'm gonna put y'all on time lapse. I'm gonna catch up with you when we start doing some more detailed stuff, and we'll show just how bad this is down in here once we get to the oil cooler. So let me get started. can see right here, this is normally has coolant in it. Of course, when I took it off, some oil was just steadily trickling out of there. I guess because I, whatever, took the cap off. But anyways, it's supposed to be coolant in there, so that's where it's all coming from. All right, we are all the way down to our oil cooler. All we got to do is undo our 10 millimeters and hold it in, and then we're ready to pull this out, clean it up, put it on the bench, and replace it. All right, let's pull this oil cooler out and get busy cleaning. 10 millimeters. Make sure you get all of them. You shouldn't have to pry it up or nothing. They usually come right up pretty easy. All right. Let the messiness begin. All right, oil cooler fun time. This is awesome and dirty and messy. What you're gonna need, brake cleaner. You're gonna need some socket around a 3/4 size, as long as it's not any bigger than the neck of the oil cooler there. 13 millimeter socket, pick, whatever you like, it's 90-degree pick, hammer, and you will need, let me see what these are again, T45 and a T30 star drive. Let's get into this. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the big ones, the T45s. It's okay to back these out with impact. Do not put them in with an impact. They're self-tapped and they will strip easily. We'll talk about torquing them later. So I did take my oil filter standpipe off because you are prone to break them when pulling the intake. If y'all noticed on that, I had already pulled it off. What you're gonna want the brake cleaner for. All right, 13 millimeters right here. And I have not looked yet to see what brand this is. We're gonna find out right now. It's actually USA made, should be a Motorcraft. International, one or the other, whatever. All right, got 2 more 13s down in here. And if you got big fingers like me, you need a magnet. This really isn't that bad of a job. The worst part is getting to the point of taking the intake off, really. So we're gonna pry this off right here. That one is really stuck. Be careful with all this because it is aluminum. Now, need your 2 blocks. I usually have a bigger pan than this, but it is not where it's supposed to be, so I don't even know where it's at right now. This is what you need your socket for. You don't want to beat on the aluminum case here. You're just wanting to get on the oil cooler. So much oil on my hands. If you beat on that case, you will know it, especially when you go to put the new oil cooler in. We're gonna get this. I'm just gonna leave that in there. All right, we got our new Ford OEM oil cooler here. We got some synthetic grease, and just lube all of your big O-rings up really good. Go on here, it makes putting it together a lot easier, and it keeps from tearing, pinching, scraping one, whatever. You got 2 real big ones and 2 little bit smaller ones. Big ones go on first. You can see they just slide on super easy, all greased up. And it also makes putting it in the case so much easier. All right, we're done with that for a minute. We went and cleaned our 2 oil cooler pieces up. This is what you need your pick for. Get your old O-rings out. Don't mix up your old O-ring with the new ones. You don't have to grease these up because they got the little tangs that hold them in the cover here, except for this one. Sometimes they get a little deformed the way they sit in the packaging. And sometimes I do put a little bit of grease on them because it makes them stay down in the groove. So you know they don't move while you're putting your oil cooler in. You got a little one right here. Don't forget it. All right, now I'll take this gasket out. That one is brittle. Get your rag, clean down in your groove right here. All right, new gasket here. Get it in the groove and then go around and make sure it's pushed all the way down. Now we're ready to put our oil cooler in. And get your blocks back. Big O-rings go on the side where you did not put O-rings. And then you just gotta feel it push down in there, just like that. Now, you're done with your blocks. Put your bolts back on first. And you're just gonna snug these up with the impact right now, because you need to torque these. Put your nuts on the top. Same thing, just snug them up. Now we're going to torque them. All right, 16 foot-pounds. Which is really not that tight. Put your new gasket on the top piece here. I still got one in here. I'm ready to get this together and start cleaning the system out and flushing it, because it's going to take longer than doing any of this. This one doesn't lock in the channel quite like the other one does, so just make sure it does stay in there and stay lined up, and it's okay to use grease if you need to make yours stay. Like I say, sometimes they fold this stuff up weird in the packaging that makes it not want to lay down. What you can do as you put it on is just double check while you set it on there that nothing's come out of place. Now you put all your bolts back in. I'm not going to tell you what to torque these to. Feel free to look it up. I don't torque them anymore because I've had too many try to strip out on me over the years when you torque them. So I just go by feel and get them good and tight, and that keeps you from stripping them out, because sometimes they really don't want to achieve torque. I'd rather have them be just a tiny bit loose, or maybe not quite to torque, rather than strip them out, because then you got a whole other problem trying to fix this cover or find another cover. And these little ones can be boogers sometimes about starting on the threads. Sometimes you got to go backwards and then go forwards. So let me snug all these up, then we'll pick back up. All right, we're going to put this on because it's easier to do it right here than it is in the trunk. All right, there's that. Put your new oil filter base gasket in. Then we're going to go on and remove this. We have a new gasket for that comes in our manifold gasket set. I always replace the manifold gaskets when I take them off. We're going to set our gasket in there for our drain tube so we don't forget it. We got a new drain back valve. His was broke, fell right out. So that's in there. So this is all good to go, ready to go back in the truck. Now we got to go over there and clean the valley up, clean the well up where this goes, and have that ready to put back in. Then we can torque that down, get everything back together, and then start doing a whole bunch of flushing. All right, you want to scoop all of your oil out of here. I used to have one of them sucker machines and quit, and I never have replaced it. This works just fine. Because we're going to get all this out, replace our screen, and clean this really good in it and all around it. All right, so what we're doing now is going around with our putty knife, and we're just scraping all this big stuff up around the edge, because we're getting ready to spray all this down with brake cleaner, and we don't want it getting down all down in here. I just let it run down the back of the motor, and got a big pan I put under the truck, and it catches all of it. I'm gonna have this looking nice and clean here in just a little bit. All right, we'll get some high on some brake cleaner. I just wash it down the back of the motor, because we're gonna clean this engine bay up when we're done with this anyway. And I'll spray some purple power back there. Well, we've taken our screen out now, and I got a paper towel stopping the drain back hole up there, so none of this runs back in the motor. As you can see, we stopped up all of our holes, our intake holes, so we don't get anything down. All right, we got our new screen put in, and you don't have to do this, but I like to go on and pre-fill the well here. Keeps you from having to crank quite as much. And I just go until it's right over the screen, right about there. You won't make a mess with that, and keeps having to crank the truck that much more to get it started back up. All right, going in with our oil cooler. All right, we got our intake prepped, new O-ring on our EGR delete right there, new hose on it, clamps are ready. Intake gaskets are on with a bolt on the front and rear holding them on. We pulled all of our paper towels out of our holes. I didn't show y'all torquing this down, but torqued down to 18 foot-pounds, no particular sequence to it. I found a turbo bolt while I was cleaning all this up. We put that back in. And I didn't show y'all earlier, but these two injectors right here, I like to push them in just a little bit, because working the intake in around the turbo, when you leave the turbo, it's easy to mess up those plugs, so I always do that. So anyways, we're gonna stick the intake in now. Oh, we got our new donut gasket right there also. So we're good to go. Intake's going on, then we start throwing everything else back together. EGR delete. All right, I wasn't thinking you can't put the EGR on when you leave the turbo in place, because it won't fit around the pedestal. All right, we got all of our intake bolts in, and I snugged them down with the electric ratchet. And by snug them down, I just go till they just touch, not getting tight. And I follow the torque sequence for it. So now I'm gonna actually torque them, and I go through that sequence 3 times, because you get a little bit of a turn every single time seating that gasket down. I'll post the picture of the torque sequence right here. So now, after I get done torquing that, we can put the face back on our turbo, which the reason that y'all may be asking, why did you take that off? Well, that ear on the intake back there, you can see I cut it because this has the EGR deleted anyways. So if you still have the ear on there like it had earlier, if you take this face off the turbo, it gives you enough room to move the intake over enough to get that ear out around it. It's a tight fit still. You can see I took the heat shield off too this time because it caught the heat shield and then it was stuck. So I'm gonna put that heat shield back on too. But anyways, word to the wise, it's pretty easy to do, to pull that off, and it gives you a little more room for wiggling that intake out. And like I say, take your standpipe off of your oil cooler, oil filter housing here, so that you don't break it, mess it up while you're doing that, because it's easy to do. So now, I'm gonna hit some high points with y'all. We'll catch up when I have it all together, and we'll start flushing this thing. All right, we are all together. Oil is changed. I went on and changed fuel filters for them too while I was doing this. I thoroughly cleaned the degas bottle out really well, which we know everything that I took off, I cleaned while I had it off. So I haven't cranked the truck yet. This is actually hot water coming from my hot water tanks on the house. I got 2 gas hot water tanks running tandem. So I have a pretty good, that's pretty hot. So I've just been sitting here letting it flush through the system with hot water, which you know will help break the oil down some. And you can see, I actually have a small stream coming out of the radiator now. So it's actually flowing from top to bottom. You can see little lumps are coming out on occasion. So I've been letting this go on for about 20 or 30 minutes. I'm gonna go a little bit longer and try to push as much of that out of the system as I can before I start feeding it all up to that brand new oil cooler. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes since my last little clip I showed y'all, and I have a full stream now, and on occasion you see a little chunk come out. So I'm gonna go just a couple more minutes, kind of wait till I'm not seeing many chunks come out, and then I'm gonna crank the truck up along with this hot water running in it, which will allow the thermostat to stay open because you won't be putting cold water in there, and thermostat trying to be staying closed or anything. So then it'll get even hotter and help push that oil out. Then we'll drain all of that and then fill with our cascade again, then go run and drive the truck, drain, fill again, drain. Probably run one dump of purple power through it and then flush and then fill it with coolant. All right, I have primed the fuel pump up since I changed both fuel filters a few times. Now I'm gonna go to try to crank it. And it ought to crank pretty easy, and that's why you fill that well up with oil before you put the oil cooler in. See, the oil pressure came out right when it cut off. It'll stay running this time. Well, there it is. Temperature ought to be registering, granted if this gauge works. You can see this is some real nice high quality set of gauges here. We are clean as a whistle. That's 2 cascade flushes and a quick 30-minute flush with some purple power, and then 1 water flush right behind that, just to make sure everything's out of the system. Heater on the whole time to flush the heater core. So we're gonna let this finish draining, drip all this water out, flush a couple gallons of distilled water through it, and then do our fill with our antifreeze. All right, guys, we are all flushed. We are all clean. We got our new ELC coolant in the reservoir bottle here. You can see there's no residue on it anymore. Nice and clean. I final flushed with purple power. Probably put about 2 quarts worth of purple power in there, and I didn't run it very long on that because that can be a little bit hard on some of the stuff. So I did about a 20-minute run on that, drained it, flushed it with the garden hose one more time, let all that totally drain out, and then I poured in 3 gallons of distilled water. I cranked the truck up, poured in 3 gallons of distilled water, and as soon as that was done, pouring into the degas bottle here, I turned the truck off, let that completely drain, sit, and then I did my last fill. That way you know you have no water in the system other than distilled water. We're all good to go. Nothing's leaking, everything's fixed. Oil cooler temps are great. Coolant temps are great. And we cleaned his engine bay up here. Let me turn you around here because y'all saw what it looked like before. So we are all cleaned up. That intake looks good, all pressure washed, cleaned up and degreased. So we're good to go now. So if this video helped you out, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We got a whole lot of forward power stroke and other content on the channel here. I think you would like a lot of it if you haven't checked us out before. Check us out at automaticgarage.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Rumble. Also, we got a lot of stuff coming here to the shop soon. Got a whole lot of projects here. I think we have 7 trucks sitting outside the shop total here, not including this one here that I'll be making a video on it also. So y'all stay tuned for that. It's Automatic Garage signing out. We'll holler at y'all later.